Hey guys, Tracy here, and today I'm going to share with you what our expenses were the first month that we had our tiny home. So as you know, we just recently got our tiny home, and this is the first month that we've paid expenses on it. So we have a mortgage on this tiny home. It's not paid off. So I'll be sharing that information with you in case one day you're thinking about getting a tiny home. If you like these type of videos, give this a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Let me know in the comments to continue to make these videos, because if it's helpful, I want to do it. If it's not helpful, then I'll find something else to talk about, or not at all. So let me know in the comments and we'll go ahead and get started with this video. I'm going to share with you on the screen here my budget. So the budget that I have here is it was an experiment that I was doing in 2025, which is to say, can I live on Social Security with my current bills? And at the time I had an RV and it was totally paid off. It was on the property that we are on now, and it was totally paid off. So I didn't have a loan or anything at that time. Now I have a tiny home and I do have a loan. And so things are a little bit different. I'm truly, eyes wide open on this, seeing that it really is going to be difficult, if not pretty much impossible, to live on Social Security with a mortgage payment. But we'll see. There's some things in my budget that I think I really need to be thinking about as I continue to grow older and prepare for retirement. Unfortunately, there are some expenses that they've just gotten a little bit out of control, and I feel like I don't really know what to do. So let's just keep going and we'll talk a little bit about it. So the first thing on the spreadsheet you'll see is I have a budget for my tiny house mortgage. My tiny house mortgage is $1,147. Now, if I don't have that in retirement, I'll show you what that looks like. But if I do have it in retirement, that just means I'm going to have to save a lot of money in between now and then to kind of offset that. So my actuals was $1,147. Now my property tax is $50 a month, and that is because this is considered land not improved. Well, a little bit improved, meaning that it has a septic system, it has electric, and it has water, but it does not have a house. And there are reasons why Lonnie and I chose not to affix the tiny house to the property. There are great reasons to do it, but there are reasons why we didn't choose to do that and instead pay what's called a vehicle license tax in Arizona. If you want to know more about that, I can go into detail for you. Again, just let me know. I'm happy to share this journey with you if it helps you in any way. The next thing is electricity. I had budgeted $100. Now, that was kind of the budget that I had for the RV. So I expected that the tiny house would be more efficient than the RV, and indeed it really is efficient. Like at this time in my tiny house, I have it at 78 degrees and it is nice and cool in here, especially if I pull down the shades, and it gets really cool in here. Now these windows are efficient windows, but again, I live in Arizona, and so that sun really likes to come in and warm up the place if it can. So when I'm trying to make sure that I save a little money, I'll close the shades. A lot of times I leave them open because I'm willing to pay for the electricity for the beautiful views that we have here. So I tend to pay it. So my electric bill for last month was $64.20 for a difference of $35.80 off of my budget. Do I expect this bill to go up? Absolutely. I don't know how far it's going to go up this year. I would really appreciate it if it would be under 200 during the hottest months of Arizona. That would make me so happy. But I'm not counting on it, and we'll just see how it goes. I always keep the temperature of my tiny home a maximum of 79 degrees is like the maximum that I keep it at. So that way it doesn't go like 80 or 81 or 82, because I want the house to continue to not have problems. Like I don't want it to get so hot in here that then my refrigerator has to work super hard and then it fails. So I try to keep my tiny home at 79 degrees always. And when I'm wanting it more comfortable, depending on how hot it is, I will bring it all the way down to 76 degrees. And usually that's pretty cold. So at night I usually will bump up that temperature just because it will get really cold in here really fast, especially at night. But I was really pleased with my electricity bill this month. Propane was higher. I didn't realize that I was out of propane, so I didn't really think to budget for propane this month. I went ahead and filled up 2 of my 5-gallon containers, and that was $43.26. So we do fill up here locally, and they will just fill up how many gallons you need. So I don't always have to get 5 gallons, but this time I had to. So that was actually pretty expensive. And actually, I think in that price, I had to switch one of my propane tanks out because it was expired. So I had to go swap it out. So there was an extra fee for that. So that was $43.26 that I was not expecting this month. My internet is $120. If you followed me previously with RV, that was $165. The reason why it's down now is because now we have what's called residential Starlink, whereas before I had mobile Starlink or Starlink Roam because we did a lot more nomad activities. The next thing I want to share with you is our water. Whoa. That was like the biggest wind gust, and it totally shook the tiny house. We have some major wind going on here. I was wondering what that was. I don't think you guys heard it, but I just heard this big, and then the tiny house started shaking. And the tiny house does shake in the wind sometimes, especially when we have the type of winds that we have on our property. It doesn't shake much. It's just a little bit. It's like, but again, it's not a house. Remember, it's still on wheels, and we have not done anything in terms of skirting it to reduce any flow underneath it. We're still working on it. Again, it's all about, we've had it for a month and we are still working through all the things that we need to do. Plus, we are having to really budget and make sure that we can pay for the things. So we are doing the best we can, and we're splurging on some things as well. So we'll share more about that. It's not all, must-dos. Some of it's nice to haves too. Okay, the next thing is trash. I budgeted $25, but it looks like it's only going to be $19.68, which is a really good deal because I live out here and it's rural, and just, to even drop off trash is like a minimum of $30 at the transfer station around here. So I love that we can get it picked up. I do have to take it like a mile down the road because they won't come all the way to my property, but that's okay. Amazon comes to my property, and so does Walmart Plus and all my other deliveries. Costco comes to my property, but the garbage truck will not. So, and I'm not alone. The next one is my cell phone bill. So we switched to Visible this year, and that has been amazing. So it gives us unlimited everything, and it's $25, and you don't have all the fees attached to it. So that's been amazing. Then restaurants, I budgeted $200 because it was my birthday month. And luckily, I had some Discover dollars that I was like, hey, we're kind of, being pinched on the budget this month. Let's use the Discover dollars. So I cashed those in, and we were able to pay for our whole family to go to the Outback Steakhouse, which was totally fun. So we only spent $21.18 of our $200 budget, and so that meant we saved $178 in that space. All right, the next category is homeowners insurance. It was $68, and so that's what we pay monthly. And the one after that is car insurance. We haven't received the bill for the car insurance yet, but I'm guessing it's going to be $200. So that should be coming soon, and then I'll be able to put it in there. For gas, I budgeted $300, and it came in at $197. Which is a difference of $103, which is great. That just shows how great it is to have the Maverick. So we have the hybrid Maverick, and it gets over 40 miles per gallon, and that is fantastic. The next thing is car maintenance. I put 25 in there, and I spent 11, and the 11 was actually for a car wash. Now, can I do that car wash by hand? Absolutely. I chose not to. I paid the $11. The next one is medical insurance. I have budgeted at $600. It looks like that's going to come in at $500. So I might be adjusting that budget next month to $500. My prescriptions, I budgeted $100. It came in at $150.71, which meant I was over by $50.71, which is a bummer. My medical copay, I budgeted for $100. It went over as well, $102.27. This one was unexpected. This one was, I went to see my gynecologist. She did a culture and sent away labs, and those labs came back, and after my insurance, I had to pay the $100.27. But I'm telling you, what they were charging for those labs, I'm going to be really careful in the future as to really understanding before I agree to another culture that I was questioning whether or not I needed it anyways. So the results came back great, wonderful, but I still felt like with as much money as they were charging for that, I may not have done it. I don't really know. How do you guys handle that when you go to your doctor and they say, oh, let's do a culture? In this case, she was wanting to do a culture for, well, I'll just keep that private. But I didn't really think that I needed it, but I still went ahead and get it and got it because she recommended it. And I was like, when I got the bill, I was shocked because I think the bill, like they billed out over $2,000 for that. And I was like, oh my goodness, my portion of it was only $100, but still, like that's a lot of testing that you're doing for what? I don't know. So I think I need to do, usually I'm really, really good about understanding these things, but I went to a new gynecologist because my last gynecologist was just awful. I think I was at a space in my life where I was just like, whatever you want to do. It's got to be better than the one I had. So I just had to be more careful. All right, the next thing is household and personal items. So this one was a little bit of a whoopsie, actually. We bought a new TV here for the tiny house, and I wanted very specific one, and it was on sale, and I was like, okay, let's just do it. And so I had budgeted $100, and it was actually total $862.92. I got a new canvas TV, and it was on sale for $799.99 at the Costco. So super excited about the TV, and I love it. Now, that means I'm negative $762.92. So that will have to come out of savings. But actually, that $762 is going to be at least $100 less because I found out today the TV is actually on sale again for $100 off. So I thought it was a great deal when I was getting $200 off plus the free warranty from Costco. Turns out it's now $300 off plus the warranty. So I went ahead and asked for a price adjustment with Costco. I expect that to come in. And so I will just have to pull a little bit out of savings for that extra. And we'll talk about that at the end. The next thing is entertainment. I budgeted $100 and actually came in at $31 because I had some AMC, had some free movie tickets. I had some AMC rewards that I used for our movie night. So I didn't really have, so I got a really great deal with that. And then I canceled Netflix because we weren't using it. I canceled HBO Max. So now I just have Amazon Prime and Paramount Plus, that one's from the Walmart Plus account. So pretty happy with that as well. The next thing is the one that I'm struggling with the most. And this is the one, if you have any ideas for me, I would love to know. My pet budget, I budget $400 a month. This month it came in at $579, and that's not uncommon. Here's the problem. When so both of our dogs we adopted a few years ago. So Tank we adopted first, and then about a year or two later we adopted Atari, who's really, I consider my dog to be Atari and Lonnie's dog to be Tank. So what we have found out over the year, they're both English bulldogs and they do take a lot of maintenance. So we do have to wipe their wrinkles. We have to put eye drops in their eyes. We got to make sure their ears are clean. We got to do all the things that you do with a dog. However, Tank is severely allergic to like everything. So we have tried everything with him. We started off feeding him salmon and pea kibble, and he would have kind of breakouts and lesions. And then we switched him to the farmer's dog, and he broke out, and it was just awful. And we were giving him beef. Now, I love the farmer's dog, so this is not a problem with the farmer's dog. I think they're great. They had amazing customer service, and I highly recommend them. But the problem is Tank is allergic. We found out to beef. He's allergic to chicken. He's allergic to pretty much everything except salmon. So we have started making him his own dog food. And since we make him dog food, we also make Atari her dog food, because we don't want them to cross. We don't want Tank to accidentally eat some of Atari's food or somehow lick her bowl and then have an allergic reaction. Because when he has an allergic reaction to his food, he gets the worst lesions, and they look so painful, and he's so miserable, and it's just awful. And then you have to go get creams, and you have to do special shampoos, and then you spend all that money at the vet trying to heal his lesions. But we have found that we make his own food, which we make with salmon, we make it with green beans, we make it with canned pumpkin. He gets, what else does he get? Blueberries, sweet potatoes. He gets, and it's all human grade food. He gets hemp oil. He gets multivitamins. He gets minerals. He gets all the things. And with the prices rising in groceries, that bill has just skyrocketed. So all to say, our pet budget is just out of control. And so that's one of the things we've been thinking about as we grow older. Obviously, we're keeping our babies. Like, they're not going anywhere, and we're going to do the right thing for them and by them. So that just means we don't do, other things so that they can have a wonderful life, which is great. The problem is I would love to be able to find something that would be a good alternative. So if you know of any alternative, it can't be turkey, it can't be lamb, it can't be, it has to only be salmon and not grains. It's really got to be what we're making him. But anyways, would love to know if you have any ideas. If your dog also had this problem, let me know. It is just much more expensive than I had ever anticipated it to be. And honestly, before we started feeding him his own food, we were kind of at a loss. We thought that he would always be having allergic reactions, and we always thought we would be battling these lesions and always, him being in pain and having to put the creams on and do all the things for the rest of his life. And ever since we started feeding him this homemade meal that we do, no problems, no lesions. He's amazing. He looks good. He's healthy. He's the best weight he's ever been. He had an ACL tear that healed. That's amazing. We were told that he would need surgery for that. He did not need surgery for that. He needed rest. Incidentally, Atari also had an ACL partial tear. We took her to a surgeon as well, and the surgeon recommended no surgery and rest, and so we did that, and she came out fine too. So I don't know if that's the food or what. It's expensive. So one of the things that we're thinking about as we get older is to really think about pets. Are we going to have them? If we have them, are we just going to have one? What are we going to do? Because they are a lot more expensive than they ever have been before. And I've had pets before my whole life. So I've always had dogs, and it's been a journey. So if you have recommendations, I'm open to listening to what you have to say. All right. The next thing is clothes. I budgeted $100 for clothes. It came at $183, so I was $83 over on clothes. And I don't know what to say about that, because if I'm buying clothes, usually I'm getting them on sale, or I get them at the thrift store, or I get them super cheap from Costco. So I need to really think about the budget on that one. Gifts, it was Mother's Day, and so I had budgeted $100, which was totally not reasonable. I spent $142.09, and the moms really loved their flowers. The next one is giving and charity. So $395 is what I budgeted. My actuals are $221 for this month. This is the budget based on Social Security. This is not what happens in a whole year. So at the end of the year, I do a big check, but I was under on that $174. And again, that will be made up at the end of the year for the places that we support. The next one is gym membership. I budgeted $25. It came in at $14 for a total of $11. So my total expenses for the month were $5,055. That was my budget. My actuals were $5,206.91. So from where I budgeted to what I came in at, I was over $151.91 that I'm going to have to pull out of savings to make that match up to zero. So my thought experiment is, how do I live in this house when I get older? And I'm just assuming I'm going to have Social Security. Hopefully I'll have some more savings, right? You always got to try to save money, and we're working on it. But if I were only living on Social Security, then I would have been under $1,254 total. So, and that's with a mortgage of the tiny home. All right, so what does this show us? This shows me that if I want to live on the average Social Security payment or income, I really need to pay off the tiny home before I retire. If I do that and I address how much money I'm spending to my animals and really thinking about that, and maybe considering one dog or 0 dogs or a fish or chickens or something, then maybe I need to reduce that budget. So instead of it being $400, maybe I just take care of my chickens, and then the expenses are just the chicken feed or whatever you get from selling eggs and all that fun stuff. So that's just something to really kind of think about. If you are trying to live on Social Security, you really have to kind of think through each of your line items. And those are the 2 biggest line items that we really need to think about before we retire. Are we retired? No. Lonnie works, I work. And we have to think about, how do we get to retirement? What does it look like? And so this is just an experiment for us. The numbers are real, but we're trying to see if we could live in a Social Security budget and what it would take to do that. So all to say, living tiny is much cheaper than living in a big house from a payment perspective, from a utility perspective, from all the things. The only thing is the optional things that we take upon ourselves to do that cause us more expenses. So what are those things? Well, I didn't have to adopt 2 dogs. I didn't have to. When I adopted those 2 dogs, I took on 2 doggy responsibility. And 2 doggy responsibility means that I need to help them and treat them with kindness. And some of that kindness means money has to go from someplace else, like savings, to them. And that's fine. And that's what we do. And those are great choices. But in this experiment, it's helping me see that if I want to retire on Social Security, I need to pick 1 dog or maybe 0 dogs and think about something else. It also helps me to look at the mortgage and say, well, maybe I need to pay off the mortgage before I retire if I want to live on Social Security. So I highly recommend running through a budget like this for everyone who is considering one day retiring and trying to see if you could take what you want to live under in the future, like as an income, and try to live on that today and see where the gaps are, because then you can start making a plan for those gaps. If I didn't make a plan, like if I wasn't looking at this and making a plan, I wouldn't think about one day getting another dog when my dogs pass one day, right? Hopefully into the long-term future. But when they pass, I might have just been like, I need another dog to adopt and I want to love on another dog. But now I'm going to look and say, okay, well, what is my goal? If my goal is to retire, I really need to save money so that I can pay off this house. So I might not get another dog. And I might choose a breed that doesn't cost as much, or I might just be a foster mom and work that out somehow. I don't know. A foster doggy mom. I don't know. There are a lot of options that we can consider. I could also volunteer at the shelter, and that's how I can help other dogs. So there's a lot of options to consider, and as we get down that path, those will be ones that I will definitely be considering. And until now, this is definitely eye-opening. All right, I hope this helped, and I hope that you have a very blessed day. Goodbye.